Very cool, Mike. Well, first off, I'm bummed my camera isn't working right now, but I think worse things have happened before.
Yeah.
Now I wasted my time taking a shower and getting all ready for this, so I'd be good on camera, Mike. Uh, so I'll tell you what, Mike, I became aware of you probably just maybe 8 or 9 months ago at this point.
Mhm.
A mutual friend of ours, Marie Swift, made an introduction. Absolutely ton of respect for Marie. Those of you who are joining us that know Marie, she certainly got a great brand in the industry and is doing some really good things from a PR and a marketing perspective. So when Marie reached out and told me I had to get to know you and get to know fpPathfinder, I jumped on it right away. So it took us a little while to organize the webinar, which is just fine. But dude, I'm totally impressed with what you guys are doing.
Oh,
Um,
thanks so much.
yeah, I think it complements well what we're doing from a business development and prospecting angle, in that it drives a lot of content creation or content inspiration. Once you're able to get the meetings from, say, LinkedIn and email marketing, the materials that you guys have at FP Pathfinder are wonderful at helping to convert prospect to client. And so I've been looking forward to this day for a long time, Mike.
Yeah.
Thanks for joining
Yeah,
me.
me too. And I want to put a preface here because all right, people go to a lot of different conferences all year round, and for the most part, we stay in industry specific conferences. Like most advisors are going to advisor specific conferences. But this year, I really wanted to step out and do something different myself personally. So I went to a very marketing specific conference where it didn't matter what industry it was just all about marketing. And
Cool.
this is the HubSpot conference up in Boston.
Yeah.
And and I was blown away by just seeing the amount of chatter in the sessions that were all focused on how to use LinkedIn.
Yeah.
Like it was, I don't, LinkedIn was all over the place. Like you could see it all over the place. You didn't see much about Facebook. You didn't see much about TikTok. Like it was very like nichey kind of audiences that would kind of gravitate towards using Facebook or TikTok. But it was like LinkedIn just across the board was so popular. And there's so much going on over there. So after sitting through multiple sessions there and still feeling a little confused, I felt like this would be a great time for me to actually ask you a lot of questions about things that were
Yeah.
confusing me.
Listen, I love that, Mike, because you and I got about 15 minutes of demo each here. And not that we have to fill up an hour, but I am open to your questions, and I got questions for you as well, my friend. So this will be fun. It'll turn into a discussion. Of course, our guests that are here, and Mike, there's a lot of them. You guys have quite a following at FB Pathfinder, so you guys did a great job and getting the word out about our event today. So thank you for that. But we've got, if you've got any questions, we've got Mike's partner, not I don't know, partner is the right way to say it, Mike, but one of the people that Mike works with, Erin, is actually with us as well. And so Erin's monitoring chat and she's monitoring the Q&A box. So if you guys have questions, drop it into chat, drop it into Q&A. And I'm just going to be advancing slides here as we
Yeah.
go. And I know both of us are ready to do, excuse me a sec here. Both of us are ready to do a little screen share as well. So we'll walk through some demos, Mike, of Sales Navigator.
Yeah.
And
I'd love to see it.
yeah, just show you how to use that. There we go. Okay. There we go. So we're figuring out technology. I got a couple different screens rocking. And so, so here's what we're going to walk through today. Quick little agenda, right? So on our next slide, I'm going to tell you about, kind of a time tested. This is not a digital 4 steps to business development. It's not something social advisors invented along the way. I mean, this is the way it's worked. This is the way it's, long before content marketing was a buzz term with social media and email marketing. People were sending out snail mail newsletters. Content marketing has been a big part of nurturing relationships for a long time. So the 4 steps for business development that we're going to talk about, they're not new, they're not digital, they're just 4 general steps to business development. You guys will see this, if the more and more I say this, Mike, I realize there's people who join our profession who only know a digital world. So, a lot of you who were doing business prior to websites and email marketing and social media and digital content marketing, you'll recognize these 4 steps prior to that stage of growth as well. And then I'm going to dive into just a quick demo of LinkedIn Sales Navigator. I'm excited about that, Mike. I've set up some pre-searches so I don't have to waste anybody's time doing that. But Sales Navigator, for those of you who are not using it or who are not aware of it, what it is, an upgraded version of LinkedIn, and it really creates a query tool for you to query anybody on LinkedIn by industry, by company, by seniority level, by anyway, so many criteria that we'll take a look at. So depending on who you prospect, or maybe you're looking for COI relationships, or you want to meet, the friends of, your best clients, LinkedIn is a really great place to do that stuff. But we're going to also talk a little bit about the importance of pulling emails and email addresses. Email is a big piece of consistent growth. And in fact, email is actually 6x more, how do we say this, for conversion than what social media is. And that's kind of logical, right? You can be a little more commercial, a little more direct with email, where social media is more kind of nurturing relationship and keeping your brand built. So,
Right.
And then Mike, we're going to turn it over to you for a little while, so you can walk our guests through fpPathfinder and all the great resources that you guys make available. I was shocked at your pricing, man.
Yeah.
So I want you to talk a little bit about that when we get to it too. Like, it does not take a whole lot to become a member of your community and use the tools that you guys are building. So that is absolutely awesome. And then, as much as we can have conversation throughout, but we'll save a little time at the end for Q&A as well.
Perfect.
All right, man. So advancing, here's your 4 steps of business development. Again, I don't want to just think this is like a new digital thing or something social advisors invented. I've been in a business development role since my career started 30 years ago. That's a little crazy to say. I don't know if that picture makes me look 51, but some mornings I feel that way. But this has always been the same, right? So you need to know exactly who it is you're prospecting. So, our industry, whether you know it or not, there's like just about 700,000 registered reps and IARs in our country. I think the number's like 682,000 or something like that as of a few years ago. Now, not everybody's practicing, but let's say 400,000 people are practicing across the country. If you're a generalist, that's a lot of competition, right? You're sharing similar content to everybody else who's sharing content. So we always recommend getting narrow and understanding who it is you serve, why you serve them, what your value is, what their specific needs are. And then once you understand that, growing a huge network and email list for communication and nurturing. LinkedIn Sales Navigator, there's a lot of ways to network, right? You can certainly, local networking events. Certainly there's other online opportunities and groups. LinkedIn Sales Navigator, I'm going to show you, makes it super easy. And then nurturing with content marketing. LinkedIn is an awesome opportunity, but email is certainly important there as well. And then, Mike, you'll lend yourself to that portion of the conversation. And then converting with educational events. So when you've got educational events that you're doing consistently, Mike, you've got one coming up in November. We'll announce that at the end. I've got one coming up November 15th as well. When you have educational events going on, that's a really easy way to identify who in that big network of yours that you're nurturing is ready for a deeper conversation. Right. So again, those educational events, that was seminars for many advisors for many years before webinars became an opportunity for them. But so these 4 steps are not new, but certainly they're important to kind of understand and adhere to. So we got, I think we skipped a slide there. No, so we're going to jump from here, Mike. I'm going to jump right into, I may have to stop sharing my screen for a second. And then I'll share my screen again, but we'll be on a
different screen.
Yeah, we'll be on a different screen. Oh, there we go. All right. Mike, I pulled up, I don't know, can you see your profile?
I see my profile here.
Awesome, man. You and I need to talk afterwards because we got to do a couple things for you. Now, I know not only are you the co-founder of fpPathfinder, but you're also a practicing advisor yourself.
Right.
That's awesome. I love that credibility. But one of the things we want to do is help build out your profile so that it really speaks your language, right? So you guys have a brand on your website, on your practice website, right? So mirror your branding across LinkedIn, right?
Right.
See this section over here, people also viewed.
Yep.
A lot of our guests, Mike, they're going to have this on here also. This shows up. We're logged in as me. This shows up to me as people who looked at you also looked at these people. And so you're going to see like Brent Bell, Mark, they're potentially your competition, right? Here's the beauty. Now it sucks that shows up, but the beauty is you can hide that, right? So under this little me tab at the top and settings and privacy, you'll be able to find a way that you can hide people also viewed.
Right.
So
so this is really for advisors that are concerned about prospects looking around at multiple advisors, kind of shopping the competition, and then all of a sudden LinkedIn picks up on this, and now when a new prospect comes in, they don't have to go look around for competing advisors because all the previous prospects have done the hard work and it's showing up here in like a quick reference sheet.
Yeah, potentially this is, so we're logged in as me right now. This is LinkedIn saying, hey, if you have interest in Mike, you might have interest in these other people. And the problem for you, Mike, is those are other advisors.
Right.
So you can hide this section of your profile so that you're not potentially, if you connect with somebody on LinkedIn, we don't want to expose them to other opportunities of people to work with. But so that's a big piece that we want to turn off for you. Put a cover photo up here to match your branding. Love your headshot. This headline right here, we can update that too. Oftentimes that's this is the position that you offer. Oftentimes we want to put in here who it is that you work with and the value you provide. So it can be much longer than just, these couple of statements. And then the biggest, most important thing is this about section. So it's amazing the value of SEO on LinkedIn. And in fact, I didn't plan on doing this, but I will real quick. I'm just going to Google my name. Hopefully nothing disparaging comes up. I've done this a lot of times, been creating content for a long time. So if you Google Charlie Van Derven, you get pages and pages of me. But good, it worked out exactly how I hoped it would. LinkedIn is the #1 listing.
Yep.
Right. So understand the importance of that when maybe a prospect's looking at you or something like that. So anybody who wants to spend time with me, I'm open to that. Mike, you and I should do that specifically, and I'll help you get your profile beefed up.
All right.
So that it just adds some credibility there. Now, I told you LinkedIn Sales Navigator. LinkedIn's awesome. LinkedIn Sales Navigator is even better. So let's jump into that. I think I did this search first. So when you go to LinkedIn Sales Navigator, and I'll just open up a blank screen of that real quick here.
Now, does everybody have access to Sales Navigator? Do you have to start paying for it early on? Like how does that?
Yeah, it's a $79 a month upgrade.
Okay.
You get 30 days complimentary. So you get a chance to play with it for a little while before you do anything. But it's, I've been paying for it for years and years.
Right.
I think Microsoft bought these guys in 16 and launched Sales Navigator in 17 or something like that. It's been around for 5 or 6 years at this point. But when you come here, you've got the ability to save leads. So, Daniel Adams is somebody that I saved once upon a time. So it's showing me Daniel Adams because I said, LinkedIn, this is a lead to me, and it's giving me ways to start a conversation. Bill Keene's another guy that, we've had conversations over the years. This is Sales Navigator is providing me an easy way to re-engage with these people. But as a query tool, that's how we use it more than anything else. So you've got lead filters, you've got account filters. Lead filters just means people filters. Account filters means company filters. So for our purposes here, Mike, we'll just take a look at our lead filters. But so this is when you click into lead filters, you're going to have all this criteria that you see on the left-hand side. Now, I did some pre-searches just to show you the value of this. But so on this one in particular, I'm looking for C-suite level executives in Houston, Texas, in the oil and gas industry. And I think that's those are the only 3 filters that I entered. And you'll see just by entering those three filters, we found 4,500 professionals. Now, it is super simple for some, for anybody to go in here who is prospecting oil and gas executives in Houston, Texas, to click on Stuart Traver, learn a little bit about Stuart, and then send a connection request to Stuart and say, hey, Stuart, I work with other oil and gas executives at, Chevron or wherever he happens to work, right? So LinkedIn's going to allow you to send out 25 invitations every single day. It doesn't take long. It's about an hour's worth of your time. But the recommendation is if you can spare an hour in the morning, if you are in business development, prospecting, marketing mode, take an hour in the morning, send out 25 invitations to people who fit the description of somebody you want to do business with. Now you're saying, yeah, well, that's easy, right? Houston's got a ton of oil and gas executives, but so if I did some pre-searches just to show you the capability of this stuff. So this one is, I don't know, I think Denver. Yeah, I just based it out of Denver. I just made up some random stuff in prep for today, Mike. But based out of Denver, what we're looking for here is potentially plan sponsors, right? So chief financial officer, controller, human resources executive, companies 11 employees to 200 employees. So again, those are the three criteria that I plugged into this to find potentially 2,500 plan sponsors or somebody at, at a firm or at a business that is, that's going to be responsible or at least point you in the right direction for the people who handle their benefits packages. Now, I see some in here that, may actually be financial services. So we can actually go to industry here and do things like,
exclude or, oh, I see. Yep.
Yeah. So exclude financial services. So we'll see how much that affects the number, but I don't think it'll affect it too much. Yeah, still around 2,500. You could exclude insurance or anybody else who you feel is competitive with you. But so that's pretty awesome. Again, 25 a day, right? The beauty is you can get data about these people, right? Zoom info, discovery data. There's lots of data, data warehouses out there that you can buy data from. So you get their contact information. The beauty of LinkedIn is that not only does it give you their contact information, it also gives you dozens of ways to reach out and get to know them, right? To engage them in some conversation.
Plus, it's also one of the most up-to-date databases out there.
Yeah, right. So long as people are keeping their, now it is the one thing that makes it interesting is that if someone leaves a job and doesn't update their profile, it's still going to look like they're still at that job, right? So it is dependent on.
But it's one of the first things people do when they change jobs is they go onto LinkedIn.
Yeah, it typically is. So here's owner and founder. So we went a little smaller town, Chattanooga, Tennessee this time. But if we're looking for business owners, if you're a SEPA out there or you work with business owners, owner and founder with more than 3 years experience in greater Chattanooga. And you could also do company headcount, right? So you can get different company sizes here. Maybe we're just looking for, a little bit bigger companies. That's gonna change the number of people that we can reach out to. But this isn't with 10 to 500 employees. There's still 605 ideal prospects right here. And again, we could remove financial services to zero in a little bit more. Now, Mike, you were talking about LinkedIn even offline before we started the webinar. You guys all know that there's people spamming on LinkedIn every single day, right? So we all log in. In fact, if we looked at my inbox right now, I could show you 5 spam messages from earlier today, right? Don't use LinkedIn that way. You might think that, the old adage, if you ask 1,000 people, you're bound to get one. Well, I'll tell you what, you're going to alienate 900 people in the process. So we really, really advocate for meeting people on LinkedIn, using LinkedIn for content marketing. It's a wonderful platform for content marketing. The stats are there's about 3 billion content views on LinkedIn every week. 2 to 2.5% of the LinkedIn network is actually sharing content. So there's a very small number of people sharing those 3 billion content views. And that's a stat in North America, 9 billion globally, 3 billion content views in Canada, the US, and Mexico. So that's a really, really small number of people sharing a lot of content, a lot of content views. So we are advocates of about 95% of people on LinkedIn make their email address available publicly. So you can pull an email address when you engage somebody on LinkedIn. I like to tell them, hey, I'm going to drop you a quick email so we can get acquainted. In that email, I let them know that from time to time we send out information about our business. If you don't want that, by all means, hit the unsubscribe button. I'm not trying to fill up your inbox, but I want to take this conversation out of LinkedIn. I want to use LinkedIn as a place to meet people, and then take this conversation out of LinkedIn and get them into email. Earlier, I said email is 6 times more effective at conversion, and that's because email becomes an acceptable commercial place. Whereas LinkedIn is a great place to meet people. It's a great place to start relationships, but it becomes a little more difficult to convert from, hi, nice to meet you on social media, to, hey, do you have a financial advisor? Let's talk about your needs.
Right. Yeah, that matches exactly with what I was hearing up at the conference. Was it's great to find the people here,
Yeah.
but they're not on LinkedIn as often as they might be on other websites or platforms like email or using Google. And so a bulk of the conference was saying, okay, you identify your prospects here. And then exactly to your point, Charlie, find a way, like build into a strategy where you're nurturing them somewhere else.
Yeah.
And get more to where they're actually going to be on a recurring basis.
Yeah, that's exactly it, Mike. We've got a tool that automates a lot of these processes, and I'll show you a quick glimpse of that. But I hadn't necessarily planned on it, but we got some time. So this last search is a good one that I want to show you before I jump in and show you what that tool is. But this last search, we all have great advocates, right? We work with advisors that are advocates of social advisors. Mike, you work with great clients that are advocates of yours, both on the practice side and on the fpPathfinder side. LinkedIn actually allows you to do a search of connections of yours. So I pulled up Nancy Kiefer, who's a good friend of mine. I've been a member of our local chamber for a very long time. And what I did was I found Nancy. She's the president of the local chamber here in Volusia County, Florida. I pulled up the second degree connections. Geographically, I searched in Volusia County for C-suite executives. I found 41 people that Nancy's connected with in my neighborhood that I am not connected with. So if I was looking to get acquainted with some CEOs, CFOs, whatever it might be, executives in the area, Nancy, my advocate, would be a great person to make introductions to some of these people. Right. So she's a fan of our business. She's a fan of the business community in our area. She might owe me a favor or two, but so this is a great way to be able to search the networks then of the people who are your greatest advocates, to understand who it is that they might be able to get you in touch with. Maybe they, get an invite to the next event you're doing or something along those lines.
Right.
This is pretty fun. So
how does this compare to LinkedIn ads?
I'll tell you what, Mike, that's a great question. You can run 3 different types of ads on LinkedIn. And if I can come over to, we'll get back to your tab. If we look at my messaging, you're going to see, it won't take long. So I'm sure there's an in-mail in here somewhere. Here's an in-mail. So Dennis here sent me this in-mail. He paid to send this to me. With Sales Navigator, you can message 2 types of people on LinkedIn. You can message people you're connected with and people you share a group with. If those things aren't effective, or those things aren't true and you want to reach out to somebody, I think it is you get 20 in-mails with your LinkedIn Sales Navigator subscription, but you can also pay for hundreds of in-mails. So I'm not sure what Dennis is doing, but this is actually one form of a LinkedIn ad, is this in-mail.
Okay.
Another form of a LinkedIn ad is, let's see, not really any sidebar ads right now. So they typically run sidebar ads along this sidebar here. And then I'm sure here's an ad right here by Chase. Right. So there's different types of LinkedIn ads. LinkedIn, for our money and the advertising we do, is actually the most expensive digital advertising that some of the most expensive digital ads we've run across. Now, when you've got budgets like Chase, you'll notice that most of the ads you see in your newsfeed are big budget companies.
Right. Okay.
We get a better result by running ads across Instagram, Facebook, and Google Display, actually. So,
Okay.
we don't typically use LinkedIn for advertising. We've done a lot of experimenting with it, but for your ad budget, there's better places to be.
Okay. So when you're looking at LinkedIn, really it's going to be effective to start at the Sales Navigator level.
It really is.
Okay.
It really is. Let me stop share here real quick. I'll share our tool really quickly. I like to make this as informative as possible, but it's fair to show that off as well. So give me just 1 second
Sure.
to pull it up. And I'll log in. It'll just be about maybe a 15-second dead space here, but I'm not on camera anyway, so like it matters, right? Sorry about that. I mean, we could probably figure it out if we had another 5 or 10 minutes, but that's okay. You guys, you get a picture of me, you know what my ugly mug looks like. So I'll just pull up a client real quick here, and then I'll share with you a campaign that we're running. So bear with me 1 second. There we go. Got it. So this is our dashboard, Mike. I don't know that you've gotten to see this before, but it's
maybe briefly.
Okay, that's pretty fun. So Lauren is a client of ours who we're looking at here. Lauren prospects. She's in Houston. She prospects women in transition, so newly single women. So this is, in fact, we did that Sales Navigator search for those various targets. This is Lauren's Sales Navigator search, and we plug in all the common female first names. And I actually just noticed here, there's a guy named Jody who slipped through. So you can take a look at we muted him so that Jody wouldn't get any messages, because it isn't a campaign intended for women. But so our system sends out 25 invites a day once we zero in on who we're looking for, and once someone connects, then they receive a couple of messages. So here's a message sequence, so that's the invitation message, and then the follow-up message. And once they receive this follow-up message, they actually import right into your CRM, and we can pull email address, again, publicly available information. It's all above board there for about 95% of the people that connect. We can also, so when you send an invitation out, one of 3 things happens, right? They accept your invitation, they reject your invitation, or they ignore it. After a week, we pull the invitation if they ignore it. And when we do that, we can pull email addresses as well. You got to handle those a little bit differently, because of course those people didn't get acquainted with you on LinkedIn. But we've got some tactful ways of making introductions with email that way. So all said, Mike, we're adding about 10 email addresses every day to a CRM database. And then in the case of Lauren, where she's integrated with the CRM, there's a handful of 2 or 3 emails that are sent out to make an introduction to who she is and to inform people that she does educational events and that she'll invite them to the next educational event. So pretty simple little tool, but it automates, saves you about an hour a day, and and the stuff that you can do every bit of this manually. But it is
but here it's a systemized approach.
Yeah, just takes a little bit of time. That's right. So
switch gears a little bit, if you don't mind. Like how does the content aspect work? Because all of this is assuming that the advisors have, they've got the messaging, they've got webinars. Like, what does that look like? What are you seeing as being effective?
So video is the most effective. But for a company like ours, advisors really have to take ownership of that video, right? We can ghostwrite all day long. We can build social media posts all day long. We can build, lead magnets, download this to get an email address. Download, these 4 things you're supposed to do before the end of the year for contributions or whatever that might be. We can set that up so we can, acquire extra email addresses by doing lead magnets. Video rules. Right. So if you look at my most recent posts on LinkedIn, you're going to see videos just holding my camera, right, with my phone, holding my phone, right. And I don't, if you're building a video for your website, certainly be polished, certainly put post-production in there. If you're if you're creating a video for social media, its shelf life is very limited. put some thought into it, create a good message. But I'll tell you what, like the camera today, right? I'm a little embarrassed I can't get my camera to work before before our event, but everybody that's here is going to be understanding. I haven't seen a single person drop off our presentation, Mike, because I can't get my camera to work. They're all going to be very forgiving of that. If you make a mistake making a video for social media, a 30-second video that you're creating on your cell phone, that's okay. It doesn't have to be perfect, right? Now, if you're creating, if you're creating video for more commercial uses, your website, for example, something that's going to have a more evergreen flair, okay, put a little more time into it, do a little bit of post-production on it, drop an intro and an outro on it. But if you're just creating video to build personality, build your brand, it's okay to make a few mistakes here and there. If you watch my videos, I've been doing video for a long time. If you watch my videos, I still stumble over words. But I try to do them all in one take at this point, unless I do something egregious. So it doesn't happen very often,
Right.
But yeah, great question.
So video, that's still the big thing.
Yeah, video rules. There's with tools like ChatGPT now, it's really easy to write some articles. Of course, make sure you monitor those. Those are still your words, but ChatGPT will help you write really search engine optimization heavy articles for LinkedIn. I showed you the value of SEO on LinkedIn when I Googled myself a little while ago, but for your website. Now, don't let chat write the article, right? Let chat help create inspiration for the article. It's got to be your article. It's got to be your words. You certainly don't want AI representing you without a heavy review and update of that stuff. Chat just shortens the creative process. That's all it's there for.
Right.
But leverage that tool. It's a great tool. As scared as people are of AI right now, and I get it, it really does create some good opportunity for you.
Can people just drop in the chat if they are using any kind of AI to help develop content? Be curious just to see where folks are in that right now. Yes, no. All right, so far 50-50, not for content. 75% of the time, okay, no.
Yeah. It's a great, you got to be careful, right? You got to be careful, but it is, any tool that makes our lives easier. Don't let it represent you, but certainly if you're struggling with, the 5 points you want to make in a blog or an article you're writing, put it in the chat. It'll help you. It helps with the creative process for sure.
Right.
Yeah. Oh.
Well, it's nice segue over here.
Yeah, man. So I want to know everything about fpPathfinder. Again, I was so excited when I was first introduced to your company. I love what you guys are doing, simplifying and enhancing the client relationship. And I can't believe your pricing, Mike. I mean, honestly, for any advisor that isn't using your tool, it's crazy, man. They got to get on it for your entry level pricing. Everybody should be using your tool.
Oh, thanks. Yeah, so for people unfamiliar, we make checklists and flowcharts to help advisors be more diligent in communicating with clients. We want advisors to look and be smarter in front of their clients. That's basically what we're trying to do. And my background isn't being an advisor, and I had my own pain points. And for a while, I was using what eventually turned into fpPathfinder as a way of trying to get new leads, and it morphed into fpPathfinder, and it was its own standalone company. So I'm still an advisor, so I keep one foot kind of on the pulse as to what's happening here in the industry, and just to understand how the pain points for advisors are evolving. But this is an interesting aspect here. So we are, you could look at us as like we're a due diligence tool. We help to make sure advisors aren't missing something. Where we really focus in is when advisors are working with existing clients. But there is a segment out there where they're trying to grow their business and they want to show prospects that they're a diligent advisor. And And so I'll share my screen here and just show you some of the stuff that we're doing.
Yeah, I need to stop share, Mike.
Oh, I think.
Yeah, I'll stop sharing that. There you go.
Okay.
Perfect.
All right. So here, this is our website right now. Uh, so we have checklists over here. We'll start with a flow chart. This was one of the very first ones that we ever came up with. And it was, can I make a deductible IRA contribution? Okay, now this is not like a prospecting like prospects don't call up asking this kind of question, but just to highlight what we do over here, we can help advisors systematize the way to answer these kinds of questions. You can see that it's branded to match the firm of the advisor. I have ABC Financial up here. Some advisors are using this behind the scenes. They don't want clients to know or prospects that they're using a checklist or flow chart to guide them. But other advisors, they wrote to us early on when we started the business, and they're like, no, get your logo off this upper right-hand corner. I want my logo in here. I want to change the colors, and I want to give it to my clients. I want them to be able to look at this. So since then, the business has grown, and there's a couple of interesting checklists that, Charlie, I'd love for you to weigh in on.
Yeah.
Because these are ones that we've earmarked as being great to start conversations with prospects. And the first one here is our master list of goals checklist. Now
Wonderful.
Okay, for everybody listening, there is like a ton of cool stuff coming out there about checklists and how they can help prospects or advisors help prospects uncover planning opportunities. And it starts with this whole concept that advisor or clients struggle to articulate what their real planning goals are. It's akin to when somebody goes to a restaurant thinking that they want to order one thing, but when they actually sit down and they look at the menu and they hear the specials, then all of a sudden something shifts and they're going, no, I want this other entree instead. That psychological thing actually translates all the way over into picking out and identify your financial planning goals.
And Mike, you might need to stop share and then share the other screen. Zoom has changed the way that
they're
your
doing it.
share.
Oh,
Yeah,
so nobody can see that.
that's what we got to get. Yeah. I was answering Q&A while you were talking a little bit.
Oh, okay. Here we go.
There you go. Perfect, man.
Here we got it. Okay. Still there?
Yep, looks good.
Okay. All right. So this is it. Thanks. All right. So this is our master list of goals checklist. It's built on research coming out of Morningstar that talks about creating this giant list. And this is just going through this, even if you as the advisor go through this, you might actually realize that your top financial planning goal may change. The research shows like the vast majority of people that go through these exercises will change one of the top 3 financial planning goals just by looking at a list. So they come in thinking, I want to retire early. They go through a list like this. They go, actually, I don't want to retire early. I just want the confidence that I can retire whenever I want.
Beautiful.
Much different way to plan, much different way to have the conversation. So how cool would it be where early on, as you're trying to nurture a prospect, that you're going through this kind of exercise with them? It just shifts the way that they'll think.
Mike, one of the things I love about what you've produced here is that, I've been coaching advisors in different capacities for, 2.5 decades. One of the things we coach to is treat your prospects like your best clients, right? Because you're going to be treating them better than what their advisor is. And it's just a matter of time then, before you become their advisor. These are the types of things that you can put in front of prospects that a lot of advisors aren't even using. Right. So I think that's a huge differentiator when you're working with a pool of prospects.
Well, exactly. Right. And there, especially with prospects, like you find the prospect. That's one battle, it's just to find them. And then how do you properly nurture them? And you're talking about it a bit right now. What we hear as well is that uh, it's a challenge to have those kinds of conversations in such a way where you're able to show value quickly and easily on your part.
Yep, for sure.
And so this is for me, this is this is like one of the first ones that we recommend advisors show prospects. Say, let's just start here at the very top. There's another one. Oh, so let me just say, these are 2 pages long. There tends to be a back page where you can put in a disclaimer or some additional information here. We have another one here where we call it as a new client, but we have some advisors that will treat this as, even though you're not literally like moved assets over or have the agreement in place, they treat this as the checklist to uncover those planning issues to help show the client or the prospect what it would be like to work with them going forward.
I love it.
This it's kind of based on some of those onboarding documents that you see coming out of financial planning software, where it's just like a worksheet, and you can fill in some questions or fill in the answers to some of the questions about assets and debts. But we put a different spin on some of this, where we want to make sure that we've asked the question: if you're currently single but you were married previously and that marriage lasted for 10 years, like, okay, you get Social Security benefits. Like, where in the process is that getting uncovered systematically? Were you a veteran? Did you deploy? Like, there's different benefits that you get. Is there a process there where we're systematically asking those kinds of questions early on in the process? Because that helps to differentiate right there. 2 advisors, one is going through a detailed questionnaire on the very first meeting versus the other one that is just pitching their service.
Yeah.
It presents 2 different things.
It almost forces an advisor, whether they've whether how do I say this tactfully, whether they've got a sales bone in their body or not. It forces an advisor to ask the right questions up front, right? Too much talking, Mike. Sorry about that. But
no, it's right.
To your point, a lot of advisors in that sales process pound their chest, right? It's more about them. It's less about the client or the prospect. These forms make it about the prospect. It's impossible for it to be about the advisor when this is the process that you're going through.
Right.
Yeah.
Just rounding it out, there's one other one that we'll typically recommend, and it's: what account should I consider if I want to save more? We'll recommend that advisors use this with existing clients, every so often, like once a year, if they have a service calendar. This is a great touch point, but it also works with prospects, saying, okay, you're coming in, you've got some issues. Where do we want to save? How do we want to save? What looks right? Let's make sure we're systematic in this. And so again, it's showing the prospect how diligent you are before you make a recommendation.
I love it. It dovetail well into educational events, right? So a lot of advisors are killing it with webinars right now, right? And like similar to this, right? So we get an opportunity to talk about who we are, talk about what we bring to the industry and the advisors we serve. Really, honestly, I am a big advocate of advisors joining the education economy, if you will. You guys have done that in large part with fpPathfinder and helping advisors with the forms and charts. We recommend advisors run 8 webinars a year, right? I would skip December. It's harder to build an audience. I'd skip the summer. It's harder to build an audience, but January through May, September, October, November are great months to offer some type of education. The topics and the questions in the form that you just showed us are perfect catalyst to running those educational, want to know what it's like to work with us,
Right.
So
I think you're right. And we know some advisors where they're taking this as the content and they build out the presentation and they say, hey, we're going to cover 15 different planning points here in 30 minutes.
Yeah.
And they might put up the checklist, or they pull out some of the content and they make it their own little visual. They walk through it. They're not trying to recreate it. They're working off of our backbone of the checklist, or if it's a flow chart.
Yeah, that's great. And I'll say that's the importance also when you're promoting those events, the importance of gathering email addresses, not just building a network on LinkedIn. And certainly LinkedIn events makes it really easy to promote webinars. And all that is you can set up an event and you can just checklist people in your network, right? You can just check to send, a couple hundred invites out a day if you choose. But the majority of people that come to these events are actually coming through email.
Right.
It's just an easier way to communicate, making sure that it's getting out to everybody in your database. In fact, I would say probably 65% of the people that registered for this event came through the emails that you sent and that we sent.
Right.
And maybe more like 35, came through some of the LinkedIn event promotion, 35%.
Right. Yeah, that largely tracks like what we were hearing about at the conferences ourselves was you find people on LinkedIn, and then you start to nurture them somewhere else. Maybe it's through an email newsletter list. And then when you go for the webinar, you don't do the webinar up on the LinkedIn platform. You have it on Zoom or somewhere else, because the LinkedIn platform right now is pretty clunky. Is that fair?
Yeah, well, there's LinkedIn Live, right? So LinkedIn Live is pretty cool. I guess it's a webinar of sorts. The problem is, and I'd say this about podcasting as well. I like podcasting. I've got a podcast. I enjoy the heck out of it. It's a way to meet really great new people. When someone downloads my podcast, I don't know who they are. And I'll tell you, because I got teenage daughters, some of their friends subscribe to the podcast for whatever reason. So if I get 100 downloads on a podcast, it might be that 5% of that's actually high schoolers. Doesn't make a lot of sense, but it happens. But I would never know that. So when you and I both promote this webinar, for example, right, this is, it's educational, but it's also strategic. I'm not, we're not hiding from anything. You've got a business to grow. I've got a business to grow. Like, you get in front of my network, I get in front of your network. We're able to bring more value. We know of anybody who registers, we know exactly who those people are. Not that either of us, both of us have more tact than to go spam them after this, but at least we know, who those people are. We get them added to a database where it becomes easier to get content email in front of them in the future. And so, LinkedIn Live, same thing as the podcast. You don't really know who's watching. You don't have their registration information.
Right.
So I prefer a webinar because it allows you, greater feedback on what you're doing.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah.
So there's a question here. It's directed at me, but I actually would like to get your perspective on it.
Sure.
But was it directed at me? No, it doesn't. Do you recommend sending the checklist ahead of time to a prospect, or simply working through the checklist at the time of the introductory call?
Are you asking me, Mike?
Yeah, I'm going to ask you here.
I think I would my first call, I'm going to assume that first call is a meet and greet. So with that first call, I'm always looking for the second call. I'm always looking for follow-up. So what I would probably do, I don't know that the checklist would come out on the first call. That's an opportunity to get familiar with somebody, understand what their needs are. Now, if that goes so well that the checklist makes sense, have it ready. Or at the end of that first call, it would be a really easy way to say, hey, listen, I've got this great checklist. I'll share it with you. You and I should grab coffee, because this thing's going to define exactly the direction we need to go.
Right.
Right. So in that first call, I don't want to, I want to follow what the prospect's giving me. I don't want to push anything. Now if they're showing up expecting that they're bringing their statements, then heck yeah, the checklist comes out. But if I just got an introduction from an advocate of mine, then probably I slow play it a little bit. And I'm looking for a good excuse for that second call.
Right.
Yeah. What about you? What do you think?
I think it really does depend on the process that the advisor's creating. You could see something where they've really nurtured their prospects for a long time, or they've done a lot to get that prospect where when they pick up the phone to call and they want to talk, they're ready to really roll up their sleeves.
Yeah.
And so like you go back to women going through transition or a divorce. Uh there's a checklist out there for that. So if a prospect calls up this advisor and says, look, I am going through a divorce and you're the divorce expert, or this campaign is really focused on divorce, uh, there are a series of materials to help that advisor have that conversation on the technical aspects, making sure that we've asked all of the right planning questions initially, just to triage the situation.
I love
So
it.
there, I could see it showing up there. There is also a use case where, and this is actually going to get a lot, we're improving upon this later this week, where we have all of our checklists are interactive. And the advisor can send a link out to a prospect or an existing client to have them complete a checklist prior to the meeting. And the benefit there is that the meeting is not spent just uncovering all of the issues.
Yeah.
You leave that to the checklist. And then when you actually meet with the client, now it's spent solving some of those and really going into what the true issues are. So it makes for a very productive conversation. And just to highlight this point, we've got this extra flexibility coming out now where you as the advisor can go in and change some of the questions, or if there's just too many, you can remove some. So you can really start to tailor this question down, or if you want to just change the language a bit. So now we're able to really tailor this if the advisor has a very specific niche, uh, or or they've got a particular way to want to frame things, they get a lot more flexibility now.
They serve Mike, they serve so much purpose, not only in the client relationship, but also the prospect relationship. I think
Yeah.
you guys can, I mean, you're it's there's an elegant simplicity to it, right? I'm excited about what you've built, and the growth you guys have had, and just stoked that you would be my guest today.
Yeah. No, this has been wonderful.
Yeah, man. So we got one more. We got a question. Thoughts on using LinkedIn newsletter and articles versus
Yeah.
standard posts. Um, why can't we do it all? So I don't think that that's the beauty of a LinkedIn newsletter, is that you can build a subscriber base there. The posts are standard, or they're going to be subject to some degree to the algorithm. Um, and articles, we write a lot of articles, a lot of ghostwritten articles for advisors. We love the article aspect on LinkedIn, largely because of the SEO, but then also it gives you something to link your post back to. Um, one of the things, one of the mistakes a lot of advisors make, not a mistake, but linking to your website, linking to a third-party resource, linking to content on Forbes. LinkedIn's an ad platform, so when you link away, they want to show it to less people because they don't want to drive traffic away from their platform. So keeping that content native on LinkedIn when you can, um, that's great. But I would do everything you've got time for, frankly. Um, different ways to reach different people. So let's see. I want to share before we run out of time here. I've got a few minutes, and
Sure.
certainly we'll stick around if questions keep coming in. But we both got a couple things coming up. Why don't you talk a little bit about Advice Tech?
Yeah. So Advice Tech Live, this is it's a year third annual technology conference that's being organized by our friends at Asset Map. And I think they've got like 20 different tech providers coming in, and they're going to do like speed demos. So you could quickly see like what's coming out with with a lot of the big players right now. Uh, but and then in between, they're going to have some really awesome thought leaders talking about the state of the industry and what's going on. It's free to join. It's spread out over 2 days, which is new this year. Uh, and link to Advice Tech. I wonder if we can get a link out there. If not, we can probably follow up with it in the email afterwards.
Yeah. So we'll get the recording out
Yeah.
tomorrow. And of course, I'll get that to you as well. We typically load it up on our YouTube channel and our website, but I'll get you the raw recording too. But we'll get a recording out. I'll make sure that in that email, the advicetech.live website's available there.
Perfect.
And then
What are you up to?
Yeah, November 15th. We're doing a lot of workshops lately. And so really hands-on, 2 to 4 hour sessions. November 15th, we're running a workshop to help advisors build out their marketing plan for 2024. So zeroing in that audience, understanding the value and building content around the value points for the audience. Setting up eight different educational event topics, walking through the technologies necessary to do that. This is stuff I've been talking about for a long time, but I recognize that there's some disconnect for many advisors between even technologies like Zoom webinar, and for me, my camera. But that's just kind of a weird thing that happened right at the last minute here. But so we'll walk through the technologies necessary and really build out a 12-month marketing plan over a 2-hour period. Workbook associated with that as well. So there's a link here. I'll get a landing page link out actually via our email tomorrow as well. So
very cool.
You can sign up for that there. But high value stuff. And the beauty of it, I love these educational events, but that one's like a hands-on doing it, not just listening to it. So so and then we do try to do a webinar at least once every other month. And so it's events introducing guys like you and awesome tools like fpPathfinder to our network on a consistent basis. So
wonderful.
So I think the last slide, Mike, is just our contact info.
Yeah. If people have questions, feel free to email me. My email is mike@fppathfinder.com.
And C. Van Derven, I should have made it 10 years ago when I set that up. I don't know why I did it first initial last name. I was the first guy with an email address at social-advisors.com. So C. Van Derven at social-advisors.com. And you can learn more about us at social-advisors.com.
Wonderful. Well, thank you so much, Charlie.
Of course, Mike. Let's just check in on Q&A here real quick. I think we got to pretty much everything that was there. We got a few chats. So we'll make sure that we scroll through that real quick. Well, then Aaron's been on top of it too. And Aaron, thanks for sharing that link. Mike, thanks so much again for being here.
Yeah.
You guys have an awesome tool. Before you go, I want to know one more thing. Well, I don't want to know one more thing. I want you to announce one more thing.
Sure.
Like you guys have so much available, right? And so what's it cost for someone entry level getting involved with fpPathfinder?
So there's 3 different membership tiers. If you're what I showed here are PDFs that you could white label, and that's $2.99 a year. So
a year.
It's about 100 guides. We keep them all up to date as the laws change. So our team is we're all waiting for annual limit numbers to come out. We're just sitting there waiting. And then if you don't want the white label, if you just want to use it behind the scenes, that's $99 a year for PDFs. And then if you want the interactive features, and this is where you can send out customized checklists, it all integrates with the CRM. That's $4.99 a year. For people that are interested, we have live demos that we offer frequently, and so advisors can go on, really kick the tires and see how our tool really works.
Yeah, well, I'm impressed. I'm excited that Marie connected us a handful of months ago.
Yeah.
I don't know when it'll happen, but I look forward to the first day I get to meet you in person.
Yeah, I know, it'll be great.
Sit down, hang out a little bit. So, and listen, we had a lot of people here, Mike. I think we capped 80 for a little while.
Cool.
So we had a nice attendance. So I want to thank everybody that took a little time out of their day. It's the most valuable thing you have. So thank you for spending a little bit of it with me and Mike. And of course, hit us up if you got any questions.
Right.
All right. Thank you, Mike. Appreciate it, man.